from here, we'll switch gears. So continue with our conversation around politics. Staying with the opposition, the former National Publicity Secretary of the Youth Party, Mr. Ayodele Adio, joins us virtually. Mr. Adio, come on.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Adio. Welcome to the program. If you can hear us, you know, it's a situation that is not looking good at all as far as opposition politics is concerned. We just finished our conversation with Mr. Inni Ememebong, the publicity secretary of the People's Democratic Party, and, you know, a party that was once the glory of Nigeria in terms of politicking has now been, you know, reduced to perhaps less than a shadow of itself, with potentially just 3 authentic PDP states left in the fray. But you know, there also seems to be a bipartisan outlook for opposition politics across board in a number of states. Abia, for instance, is Labour Party. Anambra is APGA. We now have Oshu State, that is Accord Party. What does it look like? Not forgetting, okay, I mentioned Abia being Labour Party already. What does it look like from where you see it? Are these political parties, the spread, are they rightly positioned to challenge the All Progressives Congress, to provide meaningful opposition politics, opposition ideas, and to put the ruling party to fire, to put its feet to fire in terms of policy formulation and implementation?
Well, the truth is, like you have rightfully mentioned, or like you rightfully postulated, many of the opposition political parties are dealing with certain levels of internal crisis, and they've been grappling with this crisis over the last couple of months. And you will expect that going into the new year, you know, of course, you know that primary elections are going to be held, I think, mid-year 2026. So you'd expect that opposition political parties will get their acts together before that time. But the truth is, I understand the fears that, you know, a lot of Nigerians do have, that Nigeria is probably, you know, tilting towards a one-party state where one political party dominates all the affairs in the country. But honestly speaking, I do not worry about that, because the truth is the elections that will be conducted in 2027 wouldn't be really about political parties. It will be about the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians, and Nigerians will be judging the incumbent not by the amount of governors that they have amassed themselves, not by the amount of defectors that they've been able to lure to their own political party, but on the pertinent scorecard as to how their lives have been improved, how their assets, how their families have been secured, and if they have confidence in their future, putting it in the hands of the current administration. And Nigeria's current political history has been awash with, you know, several examples that it doesn't matter how many governors control a state, it does not guarantee you that you can deliver that state. You saw what happened in Lagos State, for instance, in the 2023 elections. You know, the state governor couldn't deliver the state, you know, for the current president, even though it has been largely controlled for 24 years. You know, the same thing, you know, in many states across the country. Governor El Rufai could not deliver Kaduna State for the APC. And we can go on and on and on to see that the fact that you control a state, or the fact that you have a governor in a state, does not guarantee you in any way that you're going to deliver that state for the president. In fact, you're going to have a situation where many of these governors will be struggling for survival come 2027. And that's the bitter reality, because the Nigerian people are desperate for governance that improves their livelihood and would not necessarily be about, you know, one political party or the other. And if you can't justify the 4 years that has been handed over to you, you're likely going to lose re-election in 2027. So I really and truly am not bothered about the fact that people are populating the APC. By the time the game starts, probably mid-year into 2026, you will start to see, you know, lots more realignments here and there. And because politicians will start feeling the pulse of the people. And by the time they start consultations at the grassroots, they will realize that no political party is going to save them. No Abuja connection is going to save them. They will only be saved if they have delivered the mandate that has been handed to them by the people.
But isn't the message then lost on the opposition? If you, being a member of the opposition, you're saying that perhaps they'll get their acts together before the 2027 general elections. Is that what the opposition is limited to? I mean, we see a template, with the parliamentary system of government in the United Kingdom, where the Conservative Party provides meaningful opposition in criticism, in alternative policy to the ruling party. But the opposition is clearly missing here. Does Nigeria's opposition need some form of training or reorientation on what opposition politics really should be?
Bukala, you're throwing jabs, though. But I mean, I do get your point. The truth is, and I'll be honest with you, why there isn't a clearly defined opposition ideology that sort of differentiates many political parties from the incumbent. The truth is, why you're seeing this pace in coalition from the opposition and putting forth quite a decisive and intentional act together is largely because of the way the incumbent has conducted itself against the opposition parties. For instance, that, let's use the ADC as an example. In many states across the country where they've tried to gather, to hold meetings, to have gatherings, they've been attacked by thugs in those countries. Lagos is a case in point. Ekiti is another case in point. Kogi is another case in point. So, they've been attacked recklessly, by thugs who are loyal, to certain parts of the incumbent. And it's been difficult for these political parties, to organize, to mobilize, because they are constantly under attack. Now, the truth is, the mounting of the hurdle that opposition parties have to scale over the next couple of months is not one of ideas, actually. It's one of survival. Because, it doesn't matter how much ideas you put together. If you're going to be faced with guns, knives, and clubs, it will be very difficult for you to mobilize people towards the ideas that you're professing. So while that is not in itself an excuse as to why the opposition has been a bit lukewarm, I'm just trying to paint a picture of the reality that confronts many opposition political parties in the country today. Having said that, it is also about courage. Opposition political parties must show courage, because without courage, you will not be able to muster the kind of public or popular support that you will need to take on the incumbent administration. Right. And that is what I would like to see a lot more. I'd like to see a lot more courage from members of the opposition to stand their ground, to engage with the populace a lot more, to share their alternative views, and honestly, more importantly, have the courage to mobilize at the local level. And once that begins to happen, right, the threat levels would obviously, be doused a little bit. And of course, the Nigerian people will then see that what the incumbent has is perhaps just violence and not, ideas to move this country forward.
Well, what we see daily is members of the opposition joining the incumbent in droves. So obviously they see more than that violence that you see. They probably see it as some sort of strategy, right? So ride on the shoulders of the giants. Somehow people get to see you at least. In terms of a strategy now, some have said maybe it is time for opposition parties to either come together to form a super party or just forget about opposition, because you're up against a major party that has literally gotten, almost 30 states now in Nigeria. And when I say states, I mean the governors have defected to the ruling party, right? So it's a Herculean task. So what is the conversation around coming together? Imagine if all the other 17 parties come together against the APC. Is that hard to do?
Well, the truth is you have so many competing interests across board. I would like a situation where there is some sort of coming together of all the political parties on the opposition to put, to put a challenge towards the incumbent. But the reality is, many other political parties have competing interests, and it might prove difficult for you to align these interests, across board. However, there's clear intention from, 2 or 3 of the dominant opposition parties, whether it's the PDP or the Labour Party, that, or the ADC, that have shown intention to put up, a stiff opposition towards the incumbent. And you can see that they have been mobilizing across the country. So the question you might be asking is whether or not the PDP and, to a very large extent, the ADC wants to put together a united front against the incumbent. And that's going to be a difficult conversation to have because of the internal wranglings in the PDP. And obviously, we have to always deal with the problem of zoning or not zoning, which region is this presidency going to be zoned to. So all of these conversations makes it very difficult to have a united opposition. But what I can tell you confidently is that the incumbent is very beatable. They're really standing on spaghetti legs. And I say this not because I'm sitting as an armchair analyst. I'm saying this as someone who contested elections very recently, who went from ward to ward, from local government, from polling units to polling units, engaging people in the grassroots. And I can tell you for a fact that the people are desperate for an alternative, system. They are desperate for a new kind of.
Well, that's a lot of confidence there, and I was really looking forward to hearing Mr. Adio land on his point. He says the incumbent is very beatable. Is Mr. Adio back?
I think
unfortunately, he's not back. Yeah. But I'm wondering how that will happen. Will it be the result of an alliance between the PDP, the Labour Party, the Accord Party, the ADC, the New Bride, and the All Progressives Grand Alliance? It looks very impossible. Because some of these parties are saying we're supporting the president at the presidential elections.
Well, the truth is that politicians now have made a mess. But Ms. Ayodele, thank you so much. We wanted to take your final thought, but we're totally out of time. But that means we'll have more engagements with you in the coming days. I understand you've resigned from the Youth Party. Where are you headed?
Well, we're still praying about it to know what next steps we'll be taking in the next couple of weeks. Once that decision is finally made, we'll be the first to know.
All right. We'll be here to hear. All right. Thank you. Ayodele Adio, former National Publicity Secretary of the Youth Party.